Good morning, here is Kramer's Corner with the daily technical updates. An interesting day on the US markets. We'll start with Nasdaq 100 today, and what is interesting is that yesterday Nasdaq was very strong, closing above the upper falling trend line here and above the cloud area, above its 100 moving average, well basically above every single moving averages. Also, RSI did close above 60, so it's in a positive sentiment, indicating higher levels in Nasdaq in coming weeks and probably through the end of the year. There's some resistance at around 15,561 and the previous peak here in July at just below 16,000. We can also see here on the weekly chart, now it has broken above the falling trend line here, but basically falling channel. So there is upside momentum, and then we can also see that the weekly RSI actually broke above its falling trend line. So there is more upside for Nasdaq. S&P 500 lacking a bit. It closed just on the edge of the gap area here, but I would like to see it above 4,400 and actually 4,401, so it closes the gap area, and it's still closed below 60 on the RSI. So let's see here the next couple of days if it can also break the upper falling trend line above the cloud. Well, then there's also more upside potential for S&P right there. On the stocks 50, EUROSTOXX 50, let's zoom out a little bit so we can better see that. Still hovering around the falling trend line here. So Europe is, in general, Europe indices are still looking sluggish, a little bit weak. We have DAX also trying to get back above the falling trend line here, but the key is 15,280 to look out for. Amsterdam also lower this morning, below the 55 moving average at the moment, and we are still in a negative trend. It seems like we have trading in this falling channel-like pattern there. Belgium market also a little bit lower, trying to get its mojo back and move back above the 61.8 retracement at 34.60, but still it is in a negative sentiment, and there's really strong resistance up around here, 35.75. So seems like in general the European market a little bit weak, to the weaker side. But if it can build an uptrend here, we have CAC 40. If it can take out the peak here from last week, just below 7,100, well then there could be a push higher. The Swiss market still needs to close this gap here, so it seems like it's actually one of the weakest, if not the weakest, of the markets that we have. So really, it really needs to close this gap for further upside potential. After a strong bounce in euro dollar late last week, it is now on the weaker side on euro dollar, and I think we will see a 106.35 being tested and the 55 moving average here. So, but it's still basically it has formed an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows. So we are in an uptrend short term, but it is a fairly weak one with a really strong overhead resistance. Cable, more or less the same picture, trying to also get an uptrend going, but can't really follow through here after being rejected at the 200 moving average, just a few points below 124.45, and we are again back below the cloud here, so couldn't really get its act together and move higher. So slowly sliding lower towards 122. Going to be interesting if we get down to below 122. Can it actually sell off further? Dollar yen is slowly crawling back towards the 152 level. Well, Canada, I think it will have another go at that 2022 peak, but it's could also still be range bound here between the 149 and 152. So these are the levels to look out for. So there could be some range bound there. The RSI is positive, but there's massive divergence. But I tend to lean to the upper side in general. Euro yen slowly crawling higher towards 162. Aussie yen I think it will have another go at the 97.67 peak here in coming days and weeks, and I actually also think that we will see a 2022 peak being tested within a few weeks, maybe shorter time. Hard to say, of course, but we are in a bullish trend. We have positive sentiment on the RSI. There's no divergence. It actually points higher. The dollar Canada, and we need to look at the weekly chart for that also, because we talked about it a couple of times now. Short-term trading in this rising channel here dropped below, or jumped back to test the upper falling trend line in the falling channel here, and then taking off. And we see that quite often when an instrument is breaking out of a pattern, then it tests the trend line where it breaks out from the other side, and then it takes off. And that it seems like what we are seeing now, and I think we'll see our dollar Canada is actually set for higher levels right there. Another one that is on the move is EURNOK. Norwegian kroner is weakening quite significantly at the moment. After testing a couple of times around the 1185 strong resistance and 786 retracement, it is very close to test its all-time highs. And I think it will take it out, and I think we will see EURNOK at least to 1245, possibly up to 1260-70 level fairly shortly. EUROSTOXX is really not doing much. It's trading sideways, so it's not really falling. It's a little bit sluggish compared to the EURNOK pairs, but I think it also will begin in the next couple of days also moving back above the cloud here and back above, back towards the 12 level. Finally, on the dollar index, back above 105.34. It didn't really get all the way down to 104.46. Back above the cloud, back above 55 moving average. So maybe a little bit of a false break there. Really, what is also interesting is that the RSI didn't close below 40, meaning we are still in a positive sentiment, despite that there is some divergence on the RSI, indicating we should see a correction. Next couple of days could be decisive. If we move back above 106, well, then I think we will forget about this and move higher on the dollar index. Correction in gold is ongoing. It did test the 21 moving average here, but it's not one of the real strong ones that I would rely too much on. It's more like I still believe we'll see gold dropping to around 1950, 1933, which is the 38.2 retracement of this uptrend here. The silver, just sideways, still 23.78 we need to look at, and copper is also moving sideways. It can't really get upside potential. I think we will see it drifting lower towards the 360 again over the next couple of days. Where there's a market that really has been moving, it is the oil market, the crude oil market. Massive sell-off yesterday, bouncing a little bit today. But it's around this support level here, around 77.60, 77.20. It is bouncing at the moment, but we have RSI below 40. We are in a negative sentiment on the daily. Totally broken down here on the weekly also, but it's a very key area where we are trading at the moment. Where will we close this week? That's going to be really interesting. If it drops back, closes below the current levels and below the cloud, well, then we are back in the 70 area. Brent crude oil, similar picture, of course. Almost similar picture, did close below the support at 81.75. There's a little bit of support, a little bit lower, which is not unlikely to be tested, just around $78 a barrel. You can see here it actually did touch the 61.8 retracement and 81.55, so that's where we are trading at the moment. Interesting though is that for both the WTI and Brent, the weekly RSI is still bullish, is still no divergence, indicating higher levels, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon. So here also on daily we are in a negative sentiment. Moving on to the US 10-year, still bouncing or trading just above the 450 level. That's the key support and the upper rising trend line here. Keep an eye on that support level there. A close below the lower rising trend line here, and the 450. Well, then we have a different situation. And also keep an eye on the RSI if it closes below 40. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and happy trading.